will say that if I were if I'm looking for a base way to punt that is sound, that gives us a chance to get the ball off every time, that has sound protection, sound coverage, this will be the way to go. Particularly like if I'm going like day one, implementing something, brand new to my players. Okay, so this is how we did it. We had an op timer, a guy that would time the snap to punt, and then also a hang timer on the field. Now, obviously, we get that off the film and add that to the film, but just to have it there in real time was always beneficial to those specialists as you went. Op time being the key, right? 2.0 or better. We're looking to get the ball off. It's very, very important. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We're always shooting for that 2.0 or better for our up time snap to kick. So this is base formation. So this is closed formation on both sides. This is how we ID'd it. It'd be R1 to R5 from the right side, outside in. L1 to L5 on the left side, outside in. If you see there, it said red, whatever you want to call for a right call, whatever you want to call for a left call, we use red and black in this particular system. So basically what you're doing is you're going to man it on the front side. So the right side's going to man it, R1, R2, and R3. You're going to leave R4, R5, and L5 for the shield. And then you're going to block L4, L3, and L2 on the backside, and you're going to let L1 run. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If your snapper is not part of your protection, they're always going to have one more than you got, in a 10-up look. Okay, so this thing is developed and designed so you can turn loose of the backside one, no matter what you're doing. You turn loose of that guy, and then your punter will need to fit in what we would call the A gap away from where you're turning the guy loose. Okay, what I like about this protection is you can call it from the sideline. It really becomes a field protection. This is essentially you'd call red if you're if you're right-footed punter, middle of the field to right hash. Once you get into left middle to left hash is when you would call black. It's at least how we did it. And it's a pretty, it's pretty simple, sound. Not a lot of learning. Get into, destroy the charge, get out in coverage, and you're ready to go. So black, this would be a left hash to left middle call. So now it's just the opposite. Left side's going to block L1, L2, L3. You're going to turn loose of L4 and L5 to the shield along with R5. And then the guard tackle and in on the backside is going to block R4, R3, and R2. You're going to let the R1 run. You'll let him go. And then your punter needs to fit in the left A gap. That's where he fits inside the shield. So that's your base protection in this three-man shield. Okay. So here's a red call. So we've got a little animation here. You can kind of see how it sorts out. All right, so so red versus 10 up, so right side's R1, R2, and R3. Let the middle three run, and then the backside 2, 3, and 4, and let the backside 1 run. Okay, so now if you go to the other way, you're going to balls on the left hash. All right, then it's L1, L2, L3 to the front side of it. Turn loose to the middle 3, and then on the backside R2, R3, and R4. This is an older presentation. This was done by one of my analysts back in the day, Brock Willis, who got smart and went to law school. So now he's Esquire, Brock Willis Esquire. But a pretty slick deal he put together to illustrate that protection. So as you see right here, you see the black responsibilities. Okay, to block the thing to going to the left. All right. One thing that's interesting about this protection, when they start moving around, and you get a load to one side. So you get a 6-man side and then a 4-man side. So let's say you're on the right hash right here. You make a red call and they give you an overload. Okay. So one thing that's interesting about this protection is you actually get better angles setting it away from the overload. I'll get to that here in a second. But one variation that we got into was you can tell right here with the right guard is having to go all the way out to the R3. So what he has to do is he's got a cross face of R4 most of the time when it's overloaded. He's got a cross face of R4 to get to R3. Okay, so that's not optimal. So really you can handle a couple ways. You can switch the block, and what we would do is we would signal that with the right guard, we'd signal it to the shield guy just to let him know that we're going to turn loose of the R3 instead of the R4. You also can widen the guard split. So you can have the right guard widen out and try to get within the body of R3. But if they widen with you, you're just going to continue to widen out the whole thing, which is not terrible because you're going to move guys away from the launch spot. So anyway, that's blocking red to the load. So you can see as that guard has to cross face. Everything else stays the same. But a lot of times what we would do, if we were comfortable punting to the field, we would check it to black. Because when you check it to black, well, now you can see your left side has great angles on L1, L2, and L3. You're going to turn loose with L4, L5, and R5. And then your right guard has a good angle to get to R4, and it's R4, R3, R2 on the backside, and your normal black protection. Very important that the punter understand what you're doing, because he has to fit away from the guy we're letting run. So you have to fit in that left A gap. So very important that you have great communication if you decide to go this way. Center's free release, as always, never has blocking responsibility. The big time block that has to happen in this protection, the big time block, is the backside end has got to get something on two. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the two-man shield stuff. That's very, very important. That's the block that has to happen on the backside of the protection. If you ever, were to get, what I liked about the protection, we had a base out call, which essentially on the left side is a black call, on the right side is a red call, and then we let the middle three run. So anytime the extra returner or off returner or whatever you would call this guy, if he were more than 5 yards away from the ball, then we would make a base out call, and now you're hatted up. You got a hat for a hat on each side, so you got the whole front taken care of. So you're in good shape there. Okay, so that would be a base out, and then we'd be ready to roll. All right. Coverage wise, we would take our ends. There are spill players, there are ball players taking advantage of them being eligible. However, the backside end does have to protect in this protection. He does have to knock off the backside too. So therefore, he doesn't get out as quick as the call side end. We also would tell the call side end, we would tell him that if he can split out, if he can get more than 3 yards from the tackle, then just go in free release, because your guy was not going to get to the launch spot. So you can see as we spread it out, the ends were going to take their shot, and you see how they're tackling the opposite hip, making the ball. We're going to spill the ball. The center is going to block, and the center is going to go straight to the ball as well. Your guards are going to fan out 5. Your tackles are going to fan out 5. Your shield guys are going to be absolute contain outside, and then your PP is a ball player as well, and your punter is a safety. The thing about, as you're looking to personnel this, you really you can do a couple things based on what your personnel fits. So if you got a couple of gunners that can really run, then you got ends, you're good to go. If you don't have very many of those guys, then this is a good protection for you, because if you've got like some big skill guys, the linebackers, tight ends, those type dudes, they can play the guard and the tackle and be in good shape there. You don't have to necessarily use huge guys in the shield. If you're going to zone it, which this is built to zone, if you zone it, you need bigger guys. If you man it, you can have smaller guys. The negative to manning it is you can get picked and they can kind of work a game on you, but you can get more reliable guys in coverage. So you can build it based on, what your roster looks like and what gives you the best chance is what we're trying to do all the time, right? Splits. So your normal split. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a 2-yard split from the A gaps and the B gaps. Okay. And then if you are to the call sides, if this were a red protection right in, we'd love for him to be 3 yards. And if he can get one more step from 3 yards, then he's in a free release. On the backside, the left end, if this were a red call, we would let him performance align. So if he had to line, if he had to align shoe to the left tackle to get hands on the L2, that was fine. We would love for him to be 3 yards. We'd love for him to widen the flank. If the 2 is going to respect him, great. But a lot of times it's the 1 because he's eligible. A lot of times it's the L1. So he just has to be a pretty savvy guy and understand, how they're playing him, and then that gives him a chance.